Hi everyone, I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi, and today we're going to have our live regular Wednesday 5 p.m. Pacific time Q&A to go over U.S. immigration, all the wild questions we have here because the immigration system in the U.S. is pretty wild, and trying my best to educate you on this stuff, just non-case specific stuff, general education. Before you start, if you're watching on YouTube, please click like, subscribe to get more updates, notifications of this. Click that bell icon. And with that, I'm waiting your questions. We'll jump in it right now. And today we got the new Visa Bulletin announced, and unfortunately, USCIS said it's not doing the final. It's doing the final action dates. It's not accepting the data filing or the other chart is to be able to file the case sooner if you're in the United States for adjustment of status. And so that's a sad thing. And people, if they weren't able to get in on it, these employment-based categories in particular, sooner in the last 2 months, they're out of luck. Hopefully, your case went through and you got in at that time. But let's jump to some questions. And Madi says, I'm scheduled for a green card interview next month. Any tips on the preparation? Well, Madi, it depends on what your green card case is. So when a person goes to their green card interview, I'm not sure if you're dealing with adjustment of status in the United States or at the embassy, but let's stick with adjustment of status. There's a couple different things they're looking for. One is they're going to go through the form I-485 application for adjustment of status. And the point of that is to, one, go over the biography to make sure the information is correct, the name, date of birth, where you live, and all this kind of stuff to make sure once you get approved, the green card goes to the proper place. And then there's a lot of inadmissibility questions. These are questions designed to see if you're forbidden from getting a green card in general, or at least a green card in the United States. So they're going to ask things: have you violated your status before? Have you ever committed a fraud? Have you lied to us before? Have you had any crimes? And there's a long list. There's like 7 or 8 pages of it, more than 100 questions on the I-485 application. They're going to go through those. So those are the two main things. In your case, you followed up that you have a marriage case. They're going to go over the basis of the green card. So if it was an employment-based case, they may go over the job that you had. They're usually not too strict. They don't usually go too much into that. But for a marriage case, they go into the details of your relationship, how you met, all this kind of stuff. Since you are doing a marriage case, please download the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide. It has 4 pages at the end of it that are practice questions to go through with your spouse so you can prepare for that. Just go to www.marriageimmigrationlaw.com, and that's a great place for you to be able to see what's going on and kind of go over this stuff and to be prepared. And other thing is just have your documents ready. You want to have the originals of certain documents: birth certificates, marriage certificates, passports, divorce certificates, all and police records if needed, criminal records if needed, and it varies depending on what your case is if you need more stuff than that. So be prepared. Go in there prepared. If you need, get an attorney to go with you. You don't have to necessarily, but depending on the facts or depending on how cautious you want to be, it may be the thing to do. Or at least do a practice session with an immigration attorney so that the lawyer could kind of test you as if they're the officer and try to catch what's going on. But overall, vast majority of these cases are approved. So it's nothing to be scared about unless you got issues. And I don't know enough about your case, so I won't be able to talk about that. But most likely you'll be approved. And let us know. Please come back on the show and let us know. I'll be happy to hear some good news. The ebook I spoke about is at www.marriageimmigrationlaw.com. And then you can download that there, the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide. Make sure to type in the 3 W's. Those are mandatory to get in that page. Thank you. Marty says, should I reprint the supporting evidence I submitted or should I bring the new one? I typically don't reprint. When you have a marriage green card case and you're going to the interview, there's a lot of documents you bring. I always send these documents beforehand with the initial application, copies of it. I don't bring new ones because I typically print new ones, take it there, and then we don't need it. It's a waste of paper. I had one case where I didn't go with a client, and the officer interviewing him was the head of the department who hadn't been interviewing in a while, and she asked for copies of things we already submitted. The client came back to me and said, why did you tell us to take these? Very frustrated. I'm like, that's rarely, if ever, needed. It depends on the office. Here in Los Angeles, I've never had to do that because it is in the file. Now, sometimes the officers are going through your file, even though it's there, they can't find it, so it's easier to hand it to them. But at the same time, there's a lot of paperwork, and I hate wasting the paper when it's not needed. That one case happened for me that was needed. But if there's new documents, yeah, we print those out. But you have the originals. And when they have the originals, they have a scanner there or printer there. If they wanted, they could print it. But traditionally, I don't. But if you're going on your own without a lawyer, I would say, yeah, print everything as possible. because I could get in there and jump in there and explain stuff when needed, but I don't know what you're going to do and how well you can put it together. So it's just the one time you're doing this, yeah, go ahead and print. I don't in most of my cases. Many lawyers do; they print the whole thing. I just, from practice after hundreds of these interviews, I just a whole room of paper I just burned through. I'm like, oh, it's a waste, But if you're individually doing it pro bono, pro se without attorney, that I would take it. Keisha asks, hi sir, my I-485 already filed and my green card final action date is current today, but in retrogress after a month, do I need to wait again till it's current? Yes, unfortunately. When there's retrogression, you need to wait for the visa bulletin to become current in your case, unfortunately. In the meantime, you have an EAD. Maybe you could do, portability, you could work somewhere else after 6 months of having your adjustment status pending. There's some stuff there that'll give you some flexibility. Yeah, unfortunately with retrogression, you're going to have to wait a little longer. Sonia asks, how can I apply for U.S. citizenship after coming back on a green card for 7 months? Well, because you've been outside the United States for more than 6 months, the government may deny your citizenship case for breaking continuous residency, being outside for more than 6 months. So if you file for citizenship and you satisfy the other requirements, you have to be able to prove to the government that even though you're outside for 7 months, you really were living in the United States in the sense that your life was here and all this kind of stuff, and the trip outside was temporary. So you need to add a lot of documentation, a lot of evidence to your file when you're submitting it and at the interview, and be able to explain to the officer, yeah, I had a lease agreement here. Yeah, I had a house here. I had a car here. I had bank accounts here. My family was here. I had gym membership here. My life was here. I left and got caught up outside. Something popped up. COVID-19 hit. I was afraid to get on a plane. Be able to explain it and with documentation to be able to get citizenship. In those kind of cases, I do strongly recommend hiring an attorney to deal with that, because you're gonna have to talk with USCIS to get them to understand it. I know a lot of people are stressed out in Pakistan, India, and Russia, and Canada. They are slowly starting to see embassy appointments. For example, Mexico is hugely backed up. One of the biggest embassies in the United States, the biggest one that gives green cards out. They recently, in the last month or two, started scheduling cases that were backed up. Now, they're so backed up that it's going to take over a year or more of waiting till you get your turn, probably, if you're a new case. But they are slowly starting to see people. Canada, the U.S. Embassy in Montreal, is slowly starting to see people. Now, I have cases in Montreal that's been 6 or 7 months since the National Visa Center approved the paperwork. We're still waiting. They're probably going to get their interview in a few months because there's a backlog. And you got to keep in mind, just like here in the U.S., where you can't go to public places or you can't go to the bank 50 people at a time, these embassies have slowed it down so that the people inside the embassies are less due to the fear of the COVID-19 virus. So that be careful of that situation. But things are opening up, but it just depends if they want to or not, or what's going on. Like the embassy in Israel, one day it opens and then shuts down for 2 weeks. Then it opens and it shuts down for 2 weeks. Steffi asks, is DACA a good program to apply? Is it unstable? DACA is deferred action for childhood arrivals. Is it an unstable program? Well, it allows you to get a work permit in the United States and not have people coming after you to try to deport you for being here without permission. Now, if you have criminal history or something, that's going to be something different. Is it stable or not? Well, if you've been following the news in the last 4 years, no, it hasn't been stable. It's really a personal question, what kind of risks you want to take on, or how much value you get in getting a work permit. Stephanie, it's a really personal question. We could have a consultation session and talk about what suits your lifestyle, what's needed, what's not. But that's best to just, talk about in private if you want to make that decision to move forward with filing that case. Mike Mitchell said, I had adjustment status following a K1 entry visa. Interview was very awesome, and I received my IR1 green card instead of a CR1 green card. Since my marriage is just 14 months, what do I do? Okay, this is great. So Mike, I'm glad about your question, because this is similar to the issue that the other person had, where at citizenship, they denied the case because they said they filed it incorrectly. So just because USCIS makes a mistake on your case doesn't mean you can benefit on it in many cases. So here, a person got a 10-year green card when they were supposed to get a 2-year green card. The reason why they give a 2-year green card in this marriage case is because they want to see that after getting the green card, they want them to apply for another application of 2 years to then show that they're still married and the marriage wasn't a fake marriage or something like that. And so the difference between getting a 2-year green, 10-year green card is based on the fact that what was the date you got married and what was the date that your green card was issued. If this time span between those two dates is less than 2 years, you get a 2-year green card. If it's more than 2 years, you get a 10-year green card. Here, they made a mistake and issued a 10-year green card when they should have issued a 2-year green card. So you have to notify USCIS, file an I-90 to have them reissue a new green card. So you got to submit Form I-90. Now, there's a strategy to this. I suggest consulting, set up a consultation in private so we go over some stuff, because you're going to be without a green card for a while, and that's going to be annoying because they're going to want you to send the green card back. Contact my office, we schedule a consultation, we'll talk about it and take it from there. But you'll need to get a new green card, or at the very least, if you keep this one, remember to file the removal of conditions from I-751 on the proper date, so that what would have been a 2-year green card doesn't get expired and doesn't mess you up. That's that. So I'm going to call it a day with that. Thank you so much for everyone who joined and asked questions. We'll be back again here next Wednesday, 5 p.m. Pacific time. Glad to jump in there and answer your questions. In the meantime, I have a lot of these questions already asked on my website, my YouTube page. Go to JQK Law Firm YouTube page or JQK Immigration Clips, both of them. There's hundreds and hundreds, but at this point, 1,000 of these small questions you're answering. They're all there. So just do a YouTube search from my website. You'll catch it and you'll find your answer. If not, schedule a consultation. My email is info@jqqlaw.com. Thanks again for everyone who joined. Until next one, have a good one. Be safe. Happy Christmas. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. God bless. Talk soon. I hope you enjoyed this educational video. We have a second channel with much more information as well at JQK Immigration Clips. Please check that out. Also, you'll find our social media site has a lot more videos, images, and information about the U.S. immigration process. Please check those out on the various social media websites.